Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Happy November 1st. I hope everybody had a great Halloween. Let me know how your Halloween was, if you dressed up as anything. I'm wearing no makeup today and I just have rosacea for days, but this is the real me, everybody. This is my truth and I'm sharing it with the world. I have mild rosacea, and it sure does like to pop up exactly when I don't really want it to. So, hi. I need to really quick. I found them. Oh, hi, Ace of Sunny. How are you doing? I know that my content related to my weight loss journey and everything is my least viewed content on my channel. So people are probably least interested in it, and probably this stream is also probably not going to get a lot of views. But to me, it's just important and interesting to talk about because there is such a huge conversation around women's bodies and weight and how to manage your weight and what weight you should be and how to treat yourself and how to treat your body and how to talk about all of these things. So it's I want to, as somebody who has been all over the spectrum in terms of my weight and who has, some kind of a platform, and who built my first channel. This is my second channel. My first channel was built on being curvy and doing fashion and lifestyle stuff. I feel like I want to lend my voice. Oh, hi, Lauren. How are you doing? I feel like I want to lend my voice to the conversation because I've experienced a lot. This weight loss surgery that I went through last year into now, it's been about 1 year since the surgery date. This was my third massive weight loss in my life, in my adult life, mind you. So I feel like I have a lot of specific experiences with this. So I feel like I want to open up an avenue on my channel to discuss it. And I also feel like as much as I talk about influencers and stuff on this channel, I also want to open up avenues into talking about other topics, and this is one of them. So if you're here, do me a favor, like the stream. It makes a difference. Lets people know that this is happening. Also, I did stream on the 27th of October. Today is November 1st, so just a few days ago. I did a stream that was a 1 year anniversary of having the surgery because that was the 1 year anniversary date. It was not my best stream. It was very me talking about a lot of emotions and rambling a lot. So if you like listening to that, it's a great, if you have a long car ride coming up and you'd like to be put to sleep, that's a good one. But this one, I made a video about a year ago. I didn't end up publishing it until December 2nd, but it was filmed 2 weeks before my surgery date. And it was me talking about basically the way that I filmed it that day was meant to be my last day as a plus size woman. It's right over here. So I want to get into reacting to this video and essentially in that process, because I had a lot of fears and anxiety about the surgery and life after the surgery when I filmed this video. So I guess I want to react to this video and answer a lot of the questions that I had at the time pre-surgery and that anybody else who is pre-surgery might also have in the process. And it's moody as heck, so it's going to be a good time. And I think it's going to be a better way of going about doing a 1 year update on the surgery in general than my last stream was. of course, at like the end of my last stream, I had the idea of, oh, I should react to that video, but I had already done like an hour and a half of streaming. So it was not going to happen in that stream. And instead, I'm going to do it today because I think it'll be a little bit more concise and make a little bit more sense than the stream from the 27th. So now that I think it's been long enough, some people are here. I'm happy to have you all. Thank you for being here. Please leave any questions in the comments, like the stream, let people know we're around. And I'm just gonna get right into it. Like, I'm a little nervous because it is kind of deep stuff, I guess, that to me that we're talking about here, because it's very personal and I don't really go super personal in this way on this channel. I'm going to soon, but this is, it's not often that I talk about my body, and I don't necessarily think that people should be discussing influencers' bodies. But here I'm opening up the floor to talk about a specific experience related to my body, if that makes sense, because of course it's weight loss surgery is, it's very mysterious if you're not like currently in the process. Oh, and by the way, before I get into the video, today I am sharing my thoughts, my feelings, my opinions, my experiences. I am not a doctor. For the love of God, I'm not giving medical advice. I am just sharing, and that's it. So please don't take what I'm saying as rock solid medical advice. When I was going through this whole process, I was working with a team of multiple doctors. So I recommend that you do the same. If you're considering weight loss surgery, do not just go based on my particular experience. Also, my particular experience is I had a sleeve gastrotomy, or a gastric sleeve, which other people might have a gastric bypass, other people might have a lap band. There's multiple ways to go about doing this. There are different pros and cons and benefits to each one. Again, talk to your doctor if this is something that you're interested in about what is right for you. The sleeve seemed right for me, and a year later, I still feel like it was the choice for me. But a bypass or a lap band might be for you, or some other thing that I am forgetting about or haven't heard of. So, all right. Hi, No Other Sarah. Or No The Other Sarah. I like that. That's a fun username. All right. So with all of that being kind of sped through, I'm going to get into watching this. Hi, my name is Hannah. Today is October 12th, 2022, and I'm calling this my last day as a fat woman. Do you all hear it before I continue? Can you guys just let me know in the chat if the volume was okay and if you can hear it pretty well? There's only a few of you here, so I need somebody to tell me if the sound is okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, off we go. This video was basically born out of an existential crisis that I had a few weeks ago. When I cooked up the concept for this video, I was going to do a what I eat in a day mukbang / vlog where I talked about my last day as a fat woman. The reason I say that it was born out of an existential crisis is because the previous day before I filmed this, the more I thought about that topic, the more I realized how foundation shaking it was for me. What I eat in this video is not at all representative of my actual typical daily diet, and I'll explain that during the video, but it is representative of what I was feeling that day. As the date of my weight loss surgery approached,
and I grappled with the idea of losing my lifelong identity as a fat woman. This video is a bit rambly, messy, and generally unfiltered. I'll try to add some structure throughout by editing, but as I filmed my day, I tried to just let myself think out loud, open up, and share my thoughts and commentary on my experience as a fat woman. As a result, this video is also real, raw, and more vulnerable than I've been before on this channel. So I hope you enjoy my disorganized hot takes on my real-life experiences and can possibly relate to or reflect on my commentary here. I started filming.
So as you can see, I was nervous sharing this. And this is, like I said, hi Lauren. This is a very different video for my channel, and so this stream will be too. You can see in just that opening footage, obviously there's a decent size difference between where I was and where I'm at now. I can go ahead and say that in the whole surgery process, including the, oh wait, okay, I thought I muted myself. Okay. During the whole, hold on. Okay, sorry, I thought that a setting got messed up. Okay. During the entire surgery process, which includes pre-surgery and then, of course, surgery and post, I've lost a total of about 150 pounds. So like another human adult. So it's been a journey. And I'll also say that during that time was when I was experiencing a lot of life stressors, including just like things that were going on with myself and my fiance. I was dealing with insomnia. I think you all remember that in May of this year, May through August, I took like 3 months off of YouTube because I was trying to handle insomnia. I had severe insomnia for about a year and a quarter, and it was really ramping up during the time of the surgery and after. And then I was also going through a lot of questions regarding my mental health. And in early 2023, because this was October 27th of 2022 is when I had the surgery. In early 2023, I did a full panel diagnostic thing after having a lot of those mental health questions and concerns and trying to pin down a diagnosis. I thought for a while, because I was told by an expert that there was a high likelihood that I was on the autism spectrum, for example. After the testing, we decided that was not the case. But for a while, when you're told something like that, it makes you reassess everything that you know about yourself and about your past and about how you interpret the world. So, there was a lot going on in the past year alongside my weight loss. And at the time of filming this video, a lot of it was all overlapping at once and really just like putting a lot of pressure on me as an individual. So that adds to the nerves around the surgery and around sharing about the surgery. So anyway, just some context.
Filming this commentary vlog first thing in the morning as I did my makeup before work.
I'm going to do my makeup while I talk about this.
Not gonna lie, I was in a defensive mood, and this came somewhat in response to real-life events, but also as a preemptive response to reactions that I could foresee from people I had met and people I had never met. I was afraid of what people would think about the fact that I was having weight loss surgery and how they would respond. Did I have any reason to be so afraid? Well, at this point, I suppose that's up to you, dear viewer. Let's get into it.
So I'm going to be having weight loss surgery in 2 weeks from tomorrow. Hold on. I'm just gonna, this is what happens during a gastric sleeve. I have a photo of this in my thumbnail for this video, but also basically what happens is they remove a portion of your stomach that's, you got too much stomach because you're big and you eat a lot, essentially. So they remove a bunch of your stomach so that you can't eat so much no more. And that's a gastric sleeve. That's all. Just I needed to make myself smaller so you could see. Hey. Jeez. Start a version of a keto diet, and then on October 27th, I'll be getting a gastric sleeve. To be honest, I have not yet officially announced this to my family. I think there's a lot of judgment around weight loss surgeries, which is basically why I haven't said anything to most of them. I have talked to my sister about it, and I think my twin brother overheard that conversation because they live together. Part of what I want to do today in talking about my last day as a fat woman is talk about why I chose to do a weight loss surgery instead of continuing my lifelong cycle of yo-yo dieting. I forgot. See, this is why it's good that I'm watching this video again. I forgot that I didn't tell people about the surgery until right when it happened. I was embarrassed that I needed to have it, essentially. Because as I said, I had gone through this cycle of yo-yo dieting my whole life. But also, this was not the first, I think, as I said earlier, this surgery is the third massive weight loss I've had during my adult life specifically. So I think I felt embarrassed, and I wouldn't have said this at the time of making this video, but I'll tell you now, I felt embarrassed that I needed to take the step of having a surgery in order to get it under control. Also, I'm gonna put this up to 1.25 speed on the playback because today I have a hard stop on when I need to stop this stream, and I want to make sure that I'll be able to get through the full video in time. I'm talky. This video is talky. We gotta make sure we're not over time. I think that if people want to judge people who make this decision, it's only fair for you to hear me out as to why before you do so.
Like I said, right out the gate, I was expecting judgment and felt the need to defend myself. Turns out that feeling was justified. After I finally told my family about the surgery, I learned that at least one significant family member had talked negatively about it behind my back. And of course, it was someone who would only be supportive to my face, so that always stings a little extra. But I bring this up to say, you would be right to think of my defensiveness in this video as me arguing with my family and answering for them the question of, why surgery?
I have been chunky my whole life. I have been put on diets since I was, as long as I can remember. Most of my family has struggled with weight our whole lives. The only person who is not is my twin brother. And he'll say that he went through a period where he was feeling a little chunky. I never noticed. But most of my immediate family, my parents and 2 of my 3 siblings, have been obese at some point in our lives. When I was in middle school and high school, I remember being on diets all the time, feeling so fat. And by the way, fat is not... I'm just going to take a quick detour. I'm going to call myself fat. Fat does not mean ugly. I don't think I'm ugly. I hate it with every fiber of my being when I talk to somebody thin and I call myself fat and they're like, oh, no, honey, you're gonna... And I'm like, I didn't say I was ugly, bitch. There's this stigma around the word fat because I think that skinny people don't like that word because they... Let me talk here for a second. So this is a beef that I have with, and I still have to this day, a beef with people policing how people talk about their own bodies, especially people like myself who either are overweight, have been overweight, have gone through fluctuations. And I understand, because this... Hold on. This happened recently, even in my one of my video about Destry Smith that I put out in October. I showed a clip from the first video that I did about Destry, and I said, I was in my chubby girl era. I said like I was in my chubby girl era. I was fluffy, but I was cute, or something like that. And somebody in the comments, well-meaning, I'm sure, was like, you don't need to say but. You can say that you're cute and curvy or whatever. And I'm like, you're not the hero that you think you are when you say stuff like that. Because women in general, the subject of how to talk about your body and how to talk about weight is so, first of all, subjective as far as what different people find empowering or not, or like body positive or not. Secondly, you can get into this place with body positivity where it becomes like a toxic positivity, which is kind of something that I was musing about in my last stream, my 1-year update, where I got to this place with protecting my mental health in regards to my weight so much that it was at the detriment of my physical health, and kind of putting on blinders to the reality of I am in pain when I move. I am huffing and puffing to go up one flight of stairs. I can consider myself pretty and beautiful at whatever size, but I also need to take care of my body. It's the only body that I have. This is my only home while I'm here on this world, like on this earth, in this life. And putting that so far on the back burner that I get to a place where I can barely do any movement without feeling pain or running out of breath is not positive for me. So I do have a personal conflict with the idea of only talking positively about other people's bodies. I'll do that. About when it's me talking about my own body, I'm good. Like, I'll talk about myself. Like, I'm educated enough. Like, I've gone through this enough that I'm not putting myself down. I'm not like feeling negative mental health effects by saying, I was chubby, but I was cute. Like, stop telling me how to talk about myself in general, but especially when it comes to my weight, because you're not helping me. I'm not sure who you think you're helping by making comments in that regard, unless I think that it's someone who says something like that is projecting their own insecurity onto me in the way that I speak, and that's none of my business. You can keep that to yourself. Like, I have had a lifelong journey with this, and I'm comfortable with the way that I discuss myself and my weight. It's perfectly positive. And so along a similar lines, I'm talking here about how I perceive skinny people as a group, not individually. I'm sure there are plenty of skinny people, or people who have, for the most part have been thin for most of their lives, who don't fall into this category of what I'm going to discuss in this video here. But there are plenty who do. And so it's like, anytime people talk about like any group, obviously it's not about everybody, but it's a generalization. Like anytime you talk about any group of people, there's enough people in the group that this applies to that it's worth pointing out and that I've experienced. Like, this is my friends and family as well as just general people that I'm talking to. So it's because I have people who try in my personal life to white knight on my behalf, to like in the way that I talk about myself. Like when I was this size or larger and I would be at a picnic, like a family picnic, birthday party, and I would go to sit in a chair with arms and be like, oh, I don't fit in the chair. And my friend would be like, the chair is too small for you. You can sit, and like that was important to her, that I make the problem the chair instead of making the problem my weight. Which, like, there's a point to be made there, but also I am also a highly functioning person with a brain who knows things, and like you as a smaller person who's always been pretty small, feeling the need to white knight to me about how I talk about myself when I'm dangerously overweight, which I was at this time, is not the virtue. It's like, it's virtue signaling, I guess. It's not the heroism that you think it is. And if anything, it's annoying, and it's more of a downer than the fact that I'm not going to fit my ass into that chair because someone being so ready to immediately correct my language about it, or correct it according to them, lets me know that they are conscious of my size. They are also thinking about my size because they are prepared for me to make a comment that they think of as derogatory toward myself. So they have like a comeback ready. And I'm like, I didn't mean it that way, you know, but now I'm thinking about it that way when I'm just trying to be at a birthday party and trying to find a seat. There's a bench right there. I'll sit on the bench. It's okay because my ass can fit on the bench because there's no arms. But like, do we need to, like, can I just live? Can I, again, it feels like projecting onto me these meanings that I don't mean when I say things. And so that's also, like, that's part of what's running through my head when I talk about this, which honestly, it kind of takes, it's a while that I talk about this. So more of the same coming at you in the context of talking about the word fat.
Associate negative things with being fat.
I'm going to go back to the beginning of this sentence. Hold on.
I'm fat and fat. Honey, you're gonna, and I'm like, I didn't say I was ugly, bitch. When I talk to somebody thin and I call myself fat and they're like, oh, no, honey, you're gonna, and I'm like, I didn't say I was ugly, bitch. There's this stigma around the word fat because I think that skinny people don't like that word because they associate negative things with being fat. I'm not losing weight because I think I'm fat and fat is ugly. I'm losing weight because my knees hurt, okay? My knees hurt, my body is not capable of doing things that it used to do, and I'm young and I want to reclaim my youth. That's why I'm doing this, okay? I don't think I'm ugly. Calling myself fat is not calling myself ugly. And when you hear other fat people call themselves fat, it's not fishing for a compliment. There's plenty of times when it's just being realistic about what I look like. Like, I have a lot of fat on my body. I know that. It's not a secret. There was a minute when I did my first fashion show. It was an absolute disaster. But in preparation, I went to a fitting and I said something to the store owner whose dresses I was going to walk about being plus size. And she was like, we don't call our girls plus size. We call them perfectly beautiful, voluptuous, curvaceous queens or something like that. And I was like, Why are you, a small person, telling me, a large person, how to refer to myself? Condescending as fuck, man. Anyway,
That's why it feels like projection to me. It feels like skinny people trying to apologize to me for society and how society talks to us or like tries to make us feel or something. Like it's this very, I don't get it. It's like this misplaced, it's something, but whatever it is, like if this is some internal conversation that skinny people are having amongst themselves, like have at it, baby, but don't involve me in that. I'm fine. You know, like I've been big for long enough that I can describe my body for being what it is and the condition that it is in and not be mentally degraded by it. For example, right now, I will tell you, I don't have a lot of muscle mass right now. I am like weak right now, especially in my core and in my legs. And to an extent in my arms. My shoulders are okay. However, me saying that I'm weak or me saying that I'm like low muscle tone never gets people saying like, no, you're not weak. You're whatever, you know, because it's just a description. It's just a neutral adjective. But that cannot be said for when people just in a neutral way describe their plus size or fat or large or big body. And I'm like, can you just let me express myself without policing my language? That's really what this is about. I just, like, it seems like there's a community that in trying to correct their own language, they reach beyond to try to correct other people's language, and that bothers me. I think I've made my point 1,000 times by now, so.
I'm gonna call myself fat in this video, but when I say fat, I don't mean that. I mean ugly. I don't mean anything other than I have fat on my body. And that's just the truth. Skinny people, please stop policing how big people talk about themselves. Anyway, all that to say, I have always thought that I was fat for most of my life, whether I was dieting or not. And that's partly due to, like, my mom always putting me on diets, and that's partly due to me being bigger than a lot of my classmates. Or I would look at other fat kids and think that their proportions were better because they could wear shorts and I couldn't because I carried a lot of fat in my thighs. And I always had chub rub. When I was growing up in the 90s to 2000s, the 20-aughts, being fat was bad. It was not as accepted as it is now. I'm like a young millennial or very old Gen Z. I was born in 93, and depending on what chart I look at, sometimes I'm a millennial, sometimes I'm a zillennial, sometimes I'm a very old Gen Z. And growing up in the 90s and 2000s, there was a big emphasis on weight loss, weight culture. Every infomercial was about some way to lose weight. Everybody was very skinny in the media. Low-rise jeans were everywhere. But in a way, basically, I realized yesterday when I finally had my last appointment with my surgeon that there are things about being fat that I've held on to as a security blanket much more than I thought I did. I had a theory that part of why I was struggling with losing weight was psychological, and there was something about being big that comforted me just because it was so familiar. But yesterday it really came out. Like I was crying in a sad way about the fact that I only have 2 weeks left until my surgery. I was describing to my boyfriend, in a way, it feels like lopping off an arm because it's something that I've always known. It's something that has always been part of my story, part of my psychology, is my weight. And once I have this weight loss surgery and get my stomach literally changed for good, it's not going to be part of my story anymore. So my plan today is to show you what I'm eating basically on my last day of being a fat woman. Don't follow my example. What I'm doing today is not necessarily the good or right way going about this last day before tomorrow I start keto and then 2 weeks from now get surgery. Not that I'm not going to ever struggle with weight anymore. I'm certainly going to have to stick to a specific regimen. It'll be easier for me for once, because I'll have the new stomach as a physical assistant, a physical reminder not to have too much food, not to binge and overeat because I'm stressed. Like the new stomach when you get a sleeve, if you overdo it, if you overdo it, you throw up involuntarily. Your body just says nope and ejects that shit. My worst fear is being in public, feeling like I need to throw up and not having a place to go do that. So I am not going to be putting myself in a situation where I am even close to feeling that urge. I am.
Okay, so a couple things. Just because I'm feeling some kind of way right now, I love that somebody's already disliked this stream but hasn't told me why. Please, we're having a conversation right now, so please feel free to put your opinions in the chat. I would like to talk to people about this. That's part of why I'm doing this stream. But also, Rachel, is it okay if I share your comment, your most recent comment on the screen? Because I feel like it's important to mention that what I'm discussing with like don't police language does not just apply to how bigger people talk about their own bodies. It applies to everybody. Yeah, Rachel's making a lot of good points. Is it okay if I share, if I put one of yours on screen, Rachel? Also, hi, thank you for being here. Yeah, it's because it feels like tone policing or virtue signaling or something. Gotcha, Erin. Thank you. Oh. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so Rachel says, oh boy, now I can't see because my stupid thing is in the way. Growing up, I always had a problem putting on weight, and the comments about skinny mini or beanpole or anything really hurt. Friends talking about it wasn't ever complimentary. It was rude. Yes. And like certainly the name calling is absolutely an issue. And I think that that's the problem, is that people think that this is why I said before that like it's this association that people have, this negative association with the word fat. So if I, as an actual fat person, called myself fat, instead of it just being a neutral and accurate adjective, people are like, oh no, you're not fat, you're curvy, you're whatever. And I'm like, I didn't say being fat was bad. I just said I'm fat. That's your association that you're making, that fatness is bad and that therefore I shouldn't call myself fat. Like, and so similarly with the comments about people being thinner, like if I'm calling, you know, if I was Rachel and I was calling myself skinny mini or beanpole or something, that means something very different than somebody else calling me that. You know? So people can police their own language, but for you to police how I talk about myself feels like crossing a line. And it's happened multiple times to me in private and on my channel. And I don't get it. Thank you, Erin. I really appreciate it. You're sweet. I understand what you're saying. When I've said that, my brain is affected where it's imperfect. I'm told that it's fine, but it isn't. And I should know since it's my brain. Exactly, Lauren. Yeah. It's right. This applies to mental health stuff. This applies to physical health stuff. This applies to like all sorts of like, I'm tall. I'm about 5'11". That's a neutral, accurate adjective to describe myself. Again, that's not the type of thing where people are going to go like, oh, you're not tall. You're just height extended or something. Like, it's just an adjective. Why can't some of these adjectives just be adjectives and they're just what they are. Like, I understand that there was, like, I want to take the power back regarding these words. I think sometimes we're more concerned about somebody might be offended about that thing you just said, rather than the fact that in making that point, we're offending the person we're talking to. Like, we're actually offending somebody instead of the potential offense that may occur. It's a lot. It's a lot right now. Oh, yes, Jen. Jen. Welcome. Welcome to life. Like, your blinders have been lifted. As someone who has been thin and then put on a lot of weight due to a hysterectomy and then being a healthcare worker during COVID, I hate the way all of a sudden I'm just my weight. That happens. And that's what this video is about. The one that I'm reacting to, which I promise we're going to get back to it, is I felt like my plus sizeness, which by the way, I'm like mid-sized now. I'm not able to shop just anywhere I want to now, but I felt like my largeness was my identity, and that once I got this surgery, that was no longer going to be, like, who was I going to be then? Because like I said, I made my first channel around being plus size and liking fashion. So it's like this layer of identity that's added to people that they didn't ask for. Like, in my personal life, I'm so much more than, or just in general, I'm so much more than just being whatever size I am. But you're right, Jen, that something happens once you hit a certain size or like a certain weight. All of a sudden, it's because, and I know that I'm gonna say these things in the video, so I'm probably just saying things I'm about to repeat. But your weight, whether you want to or not, in America in 2022, 2023, is suddenly now part of who you are. Whereas before, who you are was your qualities and your interests and your intelligence and all sorts of things. So it is odd, and it is real. So, affirming that feeling. My entire, yes, Rachel. Okay, cool. All right, I promise we're gonna get back to the video. I'm so concerned because I have a hard out today. I'm not gonna make it, but I'm gonna turn this up. If I'm gonna put it on 1.5 speed just in case. Please let me know if it's like too fast. I don't think it will be.
I am very incentivized not to appropriate portions and focus on food groups that are actually good for you instead of sugar. And when you have a sugar addiction like me, that is important. I'm rambling.
One thing I forgot to mention, I'm so sorry. So talking about binging, and I had been talking about the throwing up thing. Due to some stuff that I discussed in the last stream about this, with medication adjustments, I had a whole year of like no cravings whatsoever, but with a medication adjustment, cravings came back. So binging has started to come back in my life 1 year later. So it's good to hear that this was my mindset a year ago, that the surgery would stop that from being a thing anymore. Not so. So, but I understand also that it might be able to be fixed again. My specifically, I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder, which you're going to see throughout this video that when I am stressed out, I binge. And that's not good. And that is something I'm working on in therapy now. now that the cravings are back, because I thought they had gone away, so I thought like, okay, my life is good, but now they're back because of that med adjustment. And now it's like, oh damn it, I do have to actually deal with this, which I should have done all along, but it wasn't happening, so it didn't seem relevant at the time. But now it's back and better than ever, so taking care of that.
I know that you've been to my channel before. The reason why the surgery was a good option for me compared to continuing to diet. I'm tired of fighting the battle when I have covered by my insurance, state insurance, Medicaid, this option to like get one thing done and have this finalized solution that stops the cycle of yo-yo dieting and crash dieting like I did in college. I want to stop that cycle for the sake of my body, but also for the sake of my mental health. Oh, right. That's what I was talking about, why it felt like lopping off an arm. So much of my life has been focused on my weight loss. It's part of my personality. It's part of my conversations with my family and my friends. It's part of the Hannah brand, that I'm a big girl in a small world. And in a way, that's part of the familiarity that I'm leaving behind by not continuing life as a fat person. It feels like lopping off an arm because that's how big of a conversation it was and how big of a part of my life it was to be big. That's points of bonding with my family members that I'm not going to have anymore. Although
So you can see here, Jen, I'm describing exactly what you're talking about. Is about how big of a thing weight is or was and still is, I guess, in my life, in my social groups. Also, Rachel, I'm on Vyvanse for my ADHD. The problem is there was a different med that I started taking for the insomnia. Right now I'm balancing 3 different issues with medication, that being, hold on, the ADHD, I've been taking Vyvanse for years, my insomnia issues, which have popped up over the past year and a half, and then my weight cravings. Mirtazapine, which I've been taking for insomnia, increases appetite and cravings. Vyvanse, which I've been taking for my ADHD for years, love it, can't live without it. Vyvanse is an appetite suppressant. So once mirtazapine entered the picture and brought cravings back that had not been, and mirtazapine came in like the end of July, it threw me for a loop. Cravings came right back, and I was like, wait, I have not had this problem for a year and a quarter. I am not about to start it now, and I did. So working on that. That's what I mean with the med adjustment. We're gonna figure this out because we have to. Because even like last night was Halloween. God bless. My mom bought way too much candy to hand out. I was handing out candy with her, and now we just have so much around the house. And I'm like, what? Have fun eating that candy. I'm not taking any home because like if I bring it into my home, I'm gonna eat it. It's like one of those things. So anyway, let's get to it. Jeez. 11:24.
And how big of a part of my life it was to be big. That's points of bonding with my family members that I'm not going to have anymore, although most of them by now have gotten their fitness and health in check. But it's still a conversation among us, certainly, even when we are in our fitter periods. Part of it is like losing my identity and having to form a new one. And I think I realized that yesterday. And there is a part of this that's grieving who I was and realizing like I need to redefine who I am in a way that does not involve my body and my weight. I don't know how to do that, I'll be honest. So I'm scared about that. But it's nice to at least identify where the comfort feeling comes from. And then hopefully I can start therapy soon and figure out how to solve that. I think that's what a lot of like fitness people don't realize. There is a whole process to the decision to lose weight. And a lot of times the reason that people fail on diets or don't choose to lose weight is that it's not just about people being lazy. It's about changes in your psychology and your social world. People look at me differently when I'm thin. People talk to me differently. Being big has been comfortable in that way because I'm not getting fucking catcalled on the street. But it's not getting catcalled is not worth sacrificing my health. I am so fucking late for work right now. There's more changes that happen than changes to the body when you lose a lot of weight. So when I say it's my last day as a fat person, it's not just my last day in this body at this size before I start drastically losing weight on keto and then surgery. It's also changes to my mind, things that I'm able to go do, feeling comfortable in certain places again, riding roller coasters again, sitting in any seat on an airplane. And ultimately, like, that's a lot of change. It just is. Give people a little more credit Weight loss surgery, or whatever mode of weight loss you choose, it's never the easy way out. Weight loss surgery was chosen for me in conjunction with multiple doctors, surgeon, dietitian, people who have recently met me, people who have known me for years, people who are aware of my mental health, my physical health, all of my different healths, decided together that this is a good move for me. Where is my bag? I'm looking for my bag. I'm so sorry. So in terms of my last day of food as a fat woman, my breakfast is, I don't have time to eat breakfast because I have ADHD and I did not budget my time accordingly because I had the audacity to take a shower. For lunch, I will be taking my leftover Chinese from last night because I had a fucking binge last night while I was having an existential crisis about this very topic. Just kidding, I remembered that I had a banana and a coffee this morning. How can I help you? Hi, can I please have a large mocha latte, but decaf, please?
Yes, is it hot or iced?
Hot, please.
Yes, anything else?
That's all.
Your total is $4.50. You can drive in.
Thank you. I promise I would only vlog in a drive-thru, not while I'm actually driving.
A lot of my process as I prepared for surgery had to do with my relationships with food. Not only food in general, but also specific foods. There were some temporary restrictions. For example, I have not had a sip of caffeine or carbonated beverages since sometime in June, and I won't have any for at least the next 2 months while I wait for certain parts of my stomach to heal. But there's a lot more to it than just restrictions, so I thought that a good place to start our conversation was
Comfort foods. Let's talk about comfort foods while I sit here and eat one of mine for breakfast. The thing about weight loss surgery is that it's not supposed to be that you never have foods that you like again. After the surgery, there's 4 weeks of healing that your stomach needs to go through, so you do have a very limited diet during those 4 weeks. After that, it's about eating healthy 95% of the time, and then that other 5% of the time, it's okay if you go to a birthday party, grab a slice of cake. At Thanksgiving, grab some pumpkin pie. It's not that you're supposed to never have these things again, it's that you need to limit your portion sizes, which is just like normal eating. Anything super sugary or super fatty is not supposed to be a regular part of our diet. And I think that we all know that in our heads, but I think comfort food comforts us for like 2 reasons. And this is purely my thoughts, no science here, just my experiences. Either one, nostalgia. It is part of your family tradition to enjoy a certain food. For me, that's Mountain Dew and popcorn at night. And having that food makes you feel like a kid again and makes you feel safe, you know? This is all psychological. I also think that we underestimate the reality of sugar addiction. Sugar is a drug. If you're not aware of that, watch the John Oliver piece on sugar. I know that he's like political, but that piece has nothing to do with politics. It's all research. Sugar is addictive. If you love sugary foods and it makes you feel good, that's normal. It's supposed to make you feel that way. We've been hooked on this drug since we were little, especially those of us who are genetically predisposed to weight gain and enjoying sugar and predisposed to addiction. So when you're going on a diet, you're not just eating healthier now, you're breaking an addiction. If you can do that, be proud of yourself. That's an amazing feat to do with sheer willpower. Some people like me need medical help to do that. And money.
I'm muted. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So embarrassed. So what I was gonna say is, since the cravings have come back with mirtazapine, I have definitely been dealing with my sugar addiction, sugar problems coming back, specifically like cravings being impulsive cravings for sugary foods. And now that I have more sugar in my diet, I have to go through that process again of breaking the sugar addiction in order to be able to not continue eating sugary stuff all the time. So it is just going to be an ongoing part of my life, and that is okay. You know, like I was saying there, it is probably for everybody, because American food is way too sugary in general. Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm adding commentary because I don't want to just like sit here and make you watch a video of mine while you're watching a video of mine. But honestly, like I was pretty spot on with what I was describing. At least thus far in the video, there's not a lot, like most of what I'm saying here is still accurate today. The only thing that's not is before I had said that if you eat too much sugar or too much fat, you like involuntarily vomit. That's a person to person thing. I've had that happen maybe 2 or 3 times way back in the beginning, right after I had the surgery. Since then, since my stomach has been more able to process foods as it heals, not so much, which has been a problem because I could tell that I'm eating more than I should these days, and I'm not staying on the straight and narrow. The problem is, or not the problem, but like the good thing is that I'm recognizing it much sooner now, so I can fix it sooner instead of like I'm making the choice not to put it on the back burner the way that I used to, and to treasure my body and my physical health that I have while I'm young, and to try to preserve it. And, I've gone through so much to get to where I am right now. I am not about to let some candy or some cupcake be worth more to me than keeping up my progress, essentially. So
And when you add in that nostalgia piece, breaking the addiction is so much harder. It's not just a physical addiction, it's a psychological addiction as well. For me, Ben & Jerry's ice cream is an immediate connection to my boyfriend. Ben & Jerry's is his favorite ice cream. It's been like part of our relationship that on nights when we're feeling sad or whatever, or just like bored or even celebratory, we'll go get a Ben & Jerry's. After the surgery, after the healing process, when I'm back to like eating normal food, it's not that I can never have Ben & Jerry's again. I just can't go down a whole fucking pint. What I need to do is get those little cups that they sell, and I need to listen to my body. If I start eating and my body rejects it, or if I fill up after 2 bites, don't eat the rest of it. I think there's also a thing with me personally about wasting food and clearing my plate. I didn't want to throw food away. So I was like, I need to eat all of this. But then I also realized when I do that, I'm treating my body like a garbage can. If I'm eating food that I would have otherwise thrown away, isn't that what I'm doing? Treating my stomach like a trash receptacle? It's not. My stomach is there to receive nutrition from my body, not a bunch of extra shit that I'm eating out of guilt. Food waste is a huge issue, but you're not going to solve that issue, that societal epidemic, by clearing your plate so that you don't throw away like a third of a serving of mashed potatoes or something. Also, you can save stuff for leftovers. That's a thing. Growing up in a family with 4 kids, all of whom had food problems, it was a really
I'm just gonna pop in and say that connection that I made in this video is so important for me now. It's a motto, it's a mantra that I'm reminding myself now while I'm dealing with the cravings and while I'm trying not to, because I'm getting back into those habits now that I know that my stomach can handle more food than it probably should. I'm thinking like, oh, I need to clear my plate. But no, I don't, because my stomach is not a trash can. Oh, I need to eat that because if I don't, nobody else will. Then it goes uneaten. And, if it's a piece of fruit, it spoils, whatever. So be it. I am not there to be like a vacuum cleaner that sucks up all the food that nobody else wants. That is not my job. And part of the psychology behind that is about what I'm about to discuss.
relatively big family in this day and age. So when a new food came into the house, it would be gone in like 2 seconds, especially because the boys had faster metabolisms than me and my sister. So there was this fear of missing out with food that came into the house. Like, if I don't immediately run to get some of that, then I'm not going to get any at all, or it's going to be gone before I want it. So now that I provide for myself, I need to not think that way. But that has been a hard thing to get out of. I never really learned how to listen to my body when I was young. Being stuffed is a comfort food in a way too, because you know you're safe, you know you're fed, you know that you're so safe and so fed that you're satiated, you can't even take anymore. Being stuffed is usually a sign of a good time, a party, Thanksgiving or Christmas. We may not intentionally eat to get that feeling, but at least for me, I never was able to recognize the difference to stop eating when I was full, because I didn't know what that felt like. So I had to eat until I was stuffed. I hate feeling hungry, to be honest with you. There is a fear element to it that I don't understand about myself. I'm going to go to therapy, we'll figure it out. And that's the answer, isn't it? Not to enable bad habits, but to go to therapy and figure it out. And we'll talk about habits in a minute, but one way I like to think about comfort foods now, comfort foods, this ice cream full of sugar and fat, it is one of those friends that I love much more than it loves me. And I, as a person, I have a history of doing that, trying really hard to make friends with people who just don't really like me, or at least not nearly as much as I like them. And again, we'll work it out in therapy. But as yummy as I think this ice cream is, it is not doing anything good for me. It is full of sugar and fat. If I keep eating this way, I'll get a fucking heart attack. It is only adding to my stresses and only bringing me momentary joy, which might not even be joy as much as feeding an addiction and an emotional nostalgia. Now I can sit here and recognize all these things, but not necessarily feel like I'm able to stop, which is why I'm getting the surgery and working with a team of doctors and professionals, because I can't do this on my own. I've tried.
Hearing myself say this is like so. It's been a long time since I've watched this video, and it's been a long time since I've heard myself make that comparison about these foods are the friends that like you, or no, that you like more than they like you. And it's true, and it's hitting home for me to hear myself say that. And also, I think that what I've been thinking more recently is just a little bit more brass tacks kind of language about, like, you know, if I see something that I want, just saying like, that food is not good for you, that food is not going to help you, it's only going to hurt you, essentially, and that's working for me now. But that's also a poignant comparison, and I remember making that connection when I was in the pre-surgery process, and how it really like hit home for me. That and the garbage can one.
Failed repeatedly. But I'm giving myself one last day of comfort foods to say not necessarily goodbye to them, because again, it's about moderation, but to change my thinking. I'm going to love them to the same amount that they love me, which is very little. This provides me with good taste, good texture, maybe something cool on a warm day, but once it gets past my mouth, nothing it does for me is good. That's what I need to remind myself, and that's what I need to make part of my thought process when I approach food. These friends that make me feel good in the moment but ultimately stab me in the back, I need to keep my distance from them. And that's what I'm going to be doing after today.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored by me. Would you look at that? Oh.
I'm going to skip this part because it's not currently relevant. All right.
Let's talk about habits for a minute, because I know that this is a big sticking point, obviously, when it comes to weight management, weight loss, weight gain, whatever you want to do. And by the way, I made a video about this a while ago. I'll put the thumbnail up here. I don't remember what I titled the video, but at least the thumbnail says, is weight loss body positive? And if I remember correctly, the conclusion that I came to is the point of body positivity is to accept and love your body at all of its stages, from birth to death, whether you're fat or thin or young or old, curvy, straight up and down, you get plastic surgery, you get no such surgery, you get piercings, you get tattoos, you get nothing, you know. Body positivity is not just a thing about like accepting fat people. I say that because habits are a big part of weight loss, weight gain, weight maintenance, whatever you're trying to do with your weight, which is part of your body. Hence, body positivity is part of this conversation. Habits are crucial to this, whatever your goals are with your body and with your weight. So when I talk about habits, I need to acknowledge the fact that I have ADHD, inattentive type, and habits are just much harder for me to form. They're hard for everybody to form, but I need to acknowledge that I struggle more than a neurotypical person would when it comes to forming habits, especially habits that require me to give up things that on their face I enjoy, or at least extremely decreasing the portion size that you have. ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I will default sometimes to saying ADD because I don't feel very hyperactive, but that's not what the H hyperactivity means in this case. It doesn't mean literally that you have to be bouncing off the walls. What I like to say when it comes to ADHD is it's not about a lack of attention. It's about too much attention. You're not like not seeing what's going on in a room. You're seeing everything that's going on in a room. You're hearing that conversation over here, looking at that thing out the window, hearing that music. All of those different stimulus hit you with the same amount of intensity, as opposed to being able to filter out certain stimulus and ignore it so that you can focus on something that's most important, like the teacher at the front of the classroom. So it's more of an issue with regulating your attention. It's not lacking attention, it's regulating and filtering that attention. The type of ADHD that's really easy to spot and identify in children is impulsive or hyperactive type, where those kids who have all of these different stimulus are trying to react to everything all at the same time. So they're energized and they're bouncing off the walls and they're talking about this and looking at that and touching this and listening, you know, and they're very visibly, you know, kids like me who are inattentive type kind of get overlooked because sure, I'm sitting in class and I'm quiet, but I'm not paying attention. What I'm doing is I'm hyper focusing on something. Inattentive type people are more likely to internalize all of that, not sure where to put your attention kind of energy, grab all of that attention and hyper focus it in on one thing. And you better hope to God that it's the thing you want them to focus on, because the thing that they're focusing on, all of their attention is on it. They're so excited about it. They're all in, they're in the zone, they're doing the thing. I do that like when I'm at work. I'm about to start working on some paperwork that I input into the computer, and it's one of my favorite tasks because I can allow myself to get into the zone like that, just like snap through a bunch of paperwork that I need to input. But regulating that and moderating that, and for example, like when you're in that hyper-focused state, you lose track of time. It's really hard to come out of that state and switch from one activity to another. And it's also really easy to get into like perfectionism because you're just like, you're in the zone. So you're loving what you're doing and you're putting all of your thought and care and your best efforts into it. Inattentive type, at least to me, feels very all or nothing, very black or white. I may not be able to multitask well, but God knows you give me one task to do, I'm going to do it so well. So this is where this comes back around to talk about habits and forming habits. Again, speaking from my perspective with inattentive ADHD, living this way is this roller coaster of like passion and then exhaustion. I do a task, whether it's something creative that I enjoy doing and that I give myself this task to do, or if I'm at work and I have an assignment that I need to complete. I pour all of my energy and heart and soul into it. And then when I'm done doing the task and I hand it in, or I publish a YouTube video, for example, I'm exhausted because I gave it everything that I have. That's how dieting is for me. I'm very all or nothing with my food. Moderation is so hard for me. I've learned a lot about how to moderate thanks to the few months that I've had of a more reasonable, sensible diet leading up to the surgery as opposed to what I was eating before. But what I was eating before was the nothing in the all or nothing. In this context, it would be like all healthy or no healthy. The no healthy version of Hannah is really bad. I eat so much sugar. I eat so much pizza and ice cream and like chips and cheesecake and popcorn. When I get into that zone, it's because I do not have the energy that it takes me to regulate my food. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of planning. When you're grocery shopping, it takes meal planning, which are good things to do and good habits and a good way to live. But it requires a lot of work and a lot of energy. And there have been times in my life where I just did not have that goddamn energy to sit.
Hi, Star. I hope that this makes sense, what I'm describing with ADHD and habits and food and everything. Because again, this is the first time I'm watching this video in a very long time. And, now that I'm seeing myself talk about this stuff, I'm like, yeah, that is kind of how I'm feeling right now. Not nearly as intensely as at the time of that video. But I absolutely feel some of those tendencies still exist in my dietary world. And when I say diet in these videos, I don't mean like I'm on a diet. I mean like talking about food, my food plan, my food preferences, what I eat, not like I'm on a diet. So yeah, I guess if you're somebody like me and you've been debating about having this type of surgery, that doesn't go away. Your mental health is still your mental health when your body changes, or when you have a surgery to change something about your body. But I do think that there are times when it will manifest differently or be diverted into a different part of your life maybe than your food for a certain amount of time. I have experienced that. And again, now that I did the med adjustment and everything, I do feel like there's more of the ADHD kind of hyper-focused tendencies coming back regarding food. So I need to pay attention to that. I also need to get my meds readjusted because I'm not loving the current setup, but that'll take time.
And look at broccoli and try to figure out how to make it exciting, or to try to convince myself that as much as I wanted this ice cream, it was not worth it to eat it because of what it would do to my body. It's exhausting. I've put my health on the back burner for a while because I haven't had the energy to give to it. So that's the nothing. When I'm in the all, I'm 100%, I'm in it to win it, excited about a diet. Being on a diet, an eating plan, a new lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, requires a lot of mental and emotional energy from me because I cannot give it less than that because of how my brain works. This all or nothing hyper-focused thing that my brain does, being in the zone or out of the zone. There's no halfway. So looking back on my life, I can see the patterns of where I was like all in on my diet. I was passionate about it. I was very strict with myself about if it's not one of these allowed foods, I cannot eat it because, like I said, I was like all in. All my passion, all my energy was like in this diet. And I was going to change my life and it was everything to me. And then when I left that diet, I didn't know what to do instead. So I just started kind of being like, oh, I was too strict on myself. Let me follow my impulses. And like me trying to be moderate never worked. Life is always in flux. Sometimes I have a ton on my plate. Sometimes I have a lot less on my plate. And the thing is, I cannot live my life in a way where my physical health is reliant on my ability to devote attention to my food prep, food planning, groceries, when everything else around me is feels like it's falling apart because I'm that stressed and I'm that concerned about money or politics or my job or my family. You know, when there's big, heavy life things going on, you know, I've hit my limit in terms of what stresses I can handle, and eating for my entire life has been stressful in some way or another. Whenever I eat anything, there's always some sort of emotion or thought connected to that food, judging myself for eating it, whether it's in a good way of like, good job, you're eating something healthy, or in a bad way of like, you shouldn't really be eating this crap. I still have some sort of opinion about it. At least for me, it really like increases my anxiety to be trying to moderate when I'm stressed out about much larger things in life and my anxiety is peaked, having to fight against not just the temptation of comfort food when I'm anxious and when I'm stressed out, but also fight against the physical sensation of hunger, which I hate. And I don't know why. Like I said, like I'm afraid of hunger. I don't know why. That's a thing to figure out in therapy, but it's just something that makes me so anxious again to be hungry. And when you start eating less and you start moderating, then you feel hungry more. And do I have the willpower to deal with that?
It's just an exhausting way to interact with food and really just an exhausting way to live.
Habit forming is hard for me. There's too many factors before we even talk about how expensive healthy food is, how much time it takes to prep and meal prep, and the opinions that marketing makes you have about different foods, and like all of this different fucking shit. It's a war not against laziness. It's not a war against weakness or stupidity or anything like that. It's such a deep, complex issue. Weight loss, weight management, weight gain, whatever you're doing with food. Nothing is as simple as a lot of health and fitness people like to make it sound. They're speaking in simplified terms because they're trying to reach a broad audience, and because, you know, they're on TikTok, they have a very short period of time to say something. Even on YouTube, not a lot of people make very long YouTube videos like I tend to. So there's not a lot of time to go into a lot of nuance and talk about psychology and stuff. But I would argue, if you're not going to talk about the psychology of weight loss and exercise, maybe you shouldn't talk about weight loss and exercise, because in 2022, we cannot ignore this huge factor as to why people are fat and like why they have problems with food. And I haven't even talked about eating disorders yet. I'm not going to necessarily. For a minute, I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder, but then that goes away if you haven't done binge eating in a certain amount of time.
She says after admitting to having a binge last night, which she is currently finishing today in this video. Yeah, I would say I still had some binge eating disorder tendencies at time of filming.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about eating disorders and body dysmorphia and the media and like all of these different forces and influences that are constantly telling us information about how we look, especially about how much we weigh, mixed messages also, new fad diets, all that shit. It's always a topic on fat people's minds because America makes it a topic on our minds constantly. So we have to acknowledge these forces and factors at play. It's vulnerable. It's deep shit.
Remember earlier on in this video when I was talking about how I was being defensive? Well,
We're gonna get into whatever point I'm about to make, but again, I'm just because this is the 1 year update since the surgery and everything, and you know, I'm hoping that somebody will stumble across this stream who maybe is considering taking the step toward doing a weight loss surgery and is just curious about what it's like and whatever. All of that stress that I was just describing, it goes away and it doesn't, and I think that depends on what your particular program is like with your nutritionist and whoever is helping you go through the process around the surgery. If you have a great nutritionist who's not very judgy, that's a whole different experience, especially like a nutritionist who is with a bariatric program and who's used to talking to bariatric clients, as opposed to just like a random nutritionist who doesn't necessarily work with bariatric clients a lot, because people who are part of bariatric programs and are used to bariatric clients, they're familiar with the hang-ups and the psychology and everything that I just talked about. The tendency to put your physical health on the back burner, that is much less of a thing after you have the surgery, because especially the first 6 months after the surgery, you are required to take very specific care of your body and especially of your stomach, where like if you don't, you will injure yourself. So I think that tendency that I had, and that I think a lot of people have around diet and physical health and exercise and whatever, of kind of putting it on the back burner until you take care of all those other life stressors first, to the extent that then this thing on the back burner becomes its own life stress. So it's not like it's going away, it's just waiting until later to address it later. That tendency goes away, especially at first, because you have to prioritize your body. When you take a surgery, when you have a surgery, you know, you take time off of work because you can't stand up, you can't, you know, you have to heal your your abdominals, where depending on how they do the surgery and which surgery you get and stuff. but that feeling of like, I don't know how to make this healthy food interesting. I don't know how to make myself want to eat broccoli or whatever. That's still with me. You know, I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend that I always have perfectly balanced meals, because I sure as heck don't. I sure as hell am not going to pull up some steamed broccoli or steamed vegetables or whatever when I could choose instead to have, like, I don't know, some kind of starch. But I also have found my go-tos. That was my big thing this past year with my food, was knowing that I don't have a lot of time and patience and ability to like think about food. And I also don't want to spend a lot of time thinking really hard about food, because I can get into some disordered thinking and some disordered habits, like with tracking my food and with my weighing myself often and stuff. It can get real disordered real quick, and I don't want to go down that path. I have been down that path. I don't want to do it again. So what I have done is, early on in the process, I created these little go-to meals, these little go-to recipes that were easy, low time consumption, and met the requirements that I needed according to my nutritionist for the stage of the process that I was at. And I just have had a very repetitive diet over the past year, just always eating those go-to foods, and every now and then finding a new one to add to the list. And I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind the repetition if I can take the stress off my brain, knowing like, okay, this meal checks all my boxes. Yes, it's the same dinner I had last night and the night before and for the past 3 months, but at least I don't have to think too hard about it. And I'm okay with that. I have to say, Green Giant frozen like steam bag vegetables and rice meals and stuff, they have a couple of really good ones that really line up with the requirements for like where I am now, 9 months to 1 year out from bariatric surgery, where your stomach can process it. The serving is too big. You need to have like half of the bag, but I have the Florentine rice and veggie mix all the time. Love that. That's one of my go-to things. And you just pop it in the microwave for a few minutes, and out comes a perfectly ratioed, like perfect ratio. It's like brown rice, quinoa, spinach, broccoli, and I think like Parmesan cheese or something. So you have some of that, not the whole thing, because the whole thing is too much, but you have some of that plus some chicken breast. You're good to go. That's your meal. You don't have to think about it. You know, that's what I have done to alleviate some of the stresses that I was talking about in this video. And to prevent myself, I'm trying to be more proactive, more preventative. So I'm trying to prevent myself and take proactive steps so that I don't put things on the back burner that I know should not be on the back burner at the end of the day. Because I have felt the consequences of what happens when you put it on the back burner for too long. And I don't want to go back there again. So it's prioritizing in a way that works for you, and that becomes a less stress way. For other people, it's not going to work to have like this very small menu that is kind of the same thing over and over and over and over forever. But for me, it works. And so, you know, that person who's considering maybe getting this surgery, maybe not, that's a way of doing it. It's not necessarily the way to do it. And if you have more time on your hands and more creativity in your brain, God love you. Make a whole bunch of different recipes, experiment with stuff all the time. There are so many colorful options out there in the world of vegetables and fruits and grains that are healthy without like stepping over into the land of high sugar, high fat. But for me, because I have not, you know, this has been the most stressful year of my life. So with other life events going on, with battling insomnia, with battling medication, with battling everything else, I did not have the brain space to look more creatively with my food. I came up with these meals at the beginning. I kept eating them. I have sustained myself. I have lost all the weight I needed to lose. I'm good, you know? And now a year later, now I'm looking forward into my future saying, okay, Certain stresses have been alleviated. Things have become more normalized, thank God. Now maybe I do have this space in my brain to start, creating more recipes, creating more variety, thinking ahead with my food more, planning more in advance so that I can cook on a particular day and then eat, that kind of stuff that you're supposed to do. It depends on what your life is like. You can make this work for whatever your life is like, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. As well as like that was my solution for my situation. And whatever your situation is, you can make it work for you. So don't be afraid that it's going to be too high maintenance of a life to live. It's not. You can customize it for yourself depending on the way that you are willing to live and the sacrifices you're willing to make, short-term, long-term, whatever. It's worth it in the end to have it feels like having my freedom back, having my body back, and like being able to live like a person and like move and not feel pain and not be out of breath. Like that's really what matters the most to me, And there are people who are as big as I was, who are very fit, very active. They do yoga, they're bodybuilding, they're doing whatever. God bless them. I was not in that situation. So they might have a whole totally different take on this than me. For me, I was the unhealthy version of being as big as I was. And I am healthier now and I'm more able to work out. I'm starting to work out. I got a workout machine in my basement. So I'm starting to get that more into my routine as well. So all that to say, you can relieve those stresses. You can make this work for you, for your lifestyle, for your budget, for whatever you're working with. So don't let that stop you if you're considering doing this. Again, talk to a doctor. I am sharing my experiences. I am not a doctor, but you can, whatever your situation, you can make this work for you. So back to the video.
Remember earlier on in this video when I was talking about how I was being defensive? Well, that comes back up again here as I address what I feel to be a common narrative that weight loss surgery is the easy way out, or that it's done impulsively because people can't work hard enough, or I don't know. Again, like I said, I was being defensive, but also making clear why it was exactly the right choice for me.
I'm getting surgery because I'm ready to start trying my damnedest to moderate, and I know that the best way for me to do that is to not have to deal with feeling hungry. Getting my stomach shrunk, going through this over 5-month process by the time it's all said and done, going through all of these appointments, having at least 12 to like 13 or 14 item checklists of different tests and appointments and support groups I had to go to, changes I had to make to my diet, the therapy appointments, the blood testing, vials and vials of blood, EKG, like all of this stuff I had to do to qualify for the surgery, to prove that I could handle the surgery, to prove that I could handle life after surgery with the new eating plan, especially the month after surgery. You have to first you're just eating liquids and then you're just eating soft foods because your stomach needs to heal after being torn asunder. And then after that first month, you get into eating much more normally, but just small portions and prioritizing protein over everything else. Going through that process, it's invasive, it's vulnerable, it's talking about really deep, important things. It's reckoning with myself, reckoning with my weaknesses, my habits, my failures, my attempts at change. It's not easy to take this path. Thank God I work at a job where I actually can earn PTO and use my PTO because I've used almost all of it doing all the different doctor appointments that I needed to do. And then surgery in and of itself is dangerous. I mean, this particular surgery is pretty safe, but for a lot of people, just the idea of going under the knife, no matter how safe a surgery is, there are a lot of reasons that people can't or would be afraid to, or maybe they can't afford to take the time off from work that's required after the surgery. Like, there's a lot of different obstacles in the way of getting the surgery. It's not a small thing to get a brand new stomach, basically. Your stomach has to relearn how to digest food. It's insane. And my brain has to relearn how to interact with food. You can miss me with that "this is the easy way out" shit. The only reason anyone would think that is if they've never tried this process before themselves. I'm gonna need to relearn who I am because being fat is part of my identity in a lot of ways, I'm realizing. We can talk about that next. I have my leftover Chinese from yesterday. The fact that there is leftovers is a victory. That's what I'm gonna have for lunch on my lunch break. As I mentioned, today is my last day being a fat woman.
One thing I just mentioned, because one thing I just want to mention, because I was just talking about PTO, and again, thank God that I worked at a job where I no longer do. At that time, I worked at a job where I was earning PTO, and I was able to take all of this time off for all of these appointments, so many appointments in a short period of time without like losing money, without losing my job. And then also, let me say, there was about 3 weeks surrounding the surgery, like a couple days before and then 2 weeks after, that I needed to take off for recovery time. All of that I was able to cover with my PTO. That was, oh, hey, Jasmine. I had a sleeve, not a bypass, but yes, I recommend when I'm done with, you're catching in the middle of the stream, maybe even go back to the beginning to watch the whole thing, because I'm sharing my 1 year out updates as we go. But the luxury of doing this surgery when you have PTO is basically, I know I was saying before that you can make it work, whatever your budget, whatever your whatever. That's the one thing. You need to be able to have PTO, or have, maybe you're not the breadwinner for your household, so it's okay if you miss work for a while or whatever. Or not alternatively, but I guess like for me, the result of me needing to take so much of my PTO to dedicate toward this surgery was afterward, when I started having insomnia problems that popped up into work. When I started having days when I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, couldn't go back to sleep, and then had to go to work from 8:30 to 5 p.m. And I was like falling asleep at my desk, and I knew I needed to get my sleep back on schedule. I didn't have any PTO left to take off to address my insomnia. So, and I couldn't have seen that coming, to be honest with you. So I'm not saying like, make sure you you predict your future emergencies. We can't do that. But it's just this interesting, like, weird dichotomy of, for me, for my particular circumstance, I had these multiple pillars of things that were all going on at the same time that impacted each other in ways that I didn't realize, didn't expect, maybe couldn't have realized or expected, but also I probably could have if I was paying more attention to my health, but I wasn't, which is how I got myself into this situation in the first place of needing to have the surgery. So all in all, oh, thank you, Allison. All in all, I think the moral of this whole story for me, for my experience, is I know that life sucks and there are difficult stressors, but it is not worth it to put your physical health on the back burner while you're going through other incredible life stressors, because the results of doing that are not as helpful as it seems. You're just creating problems for yourself later on down the line. And I hate to say it, because I know that that is my weakness, and I know that in the future, through the rest of my life, there's probably going to be issues when I have to deal with stuff in my personal life, with my finances, with my family, with whatever, and not be as attentive to my physical health. But that's why I need to take this time and really establish positive habits with my physical health, so that it won't feel like additional hard work to continue taking care of my body while I'm also taking care of whatever stress pops up, my finances, my personal life, my mental health, my whatever. Yeah. There's more I could say, but I'm not gonna.
And there's a lot of identity behind that. I wanted to talk about that. I started to this morning when I was doing my makeup at the beginning of this. I said that it felt like lopping off an arm to get the gastric sleeve. Because basically what I meant is like, it's something that's always been there. I'm not having it. Everything about you changes. You start to experience the world differently. People treat you differently. This is not a perfect analogy. I guess it works if you had an extra third arm and you cut that off. I don't know. But there's a health side of weight loss, which I was talking about before. I'm doing this for the health benefits and to try to reclaim my youth instead of working my whole life and probably never achieving the results that I could achieve if I just got the surgery. I welcome this change. I welcome the health benefits that it will bring, but I'm also anxious, I don't know, about the societal part of it. I haven't told my parents about it, as I mentioned, or like my family really, besides just my sister and possibly my twin brother. I've told like one friend. I told you how I've always been fat since I was young. So it's always been part of my identity. And not having that anymore does feel a little bit naked. That's what I was thinking about yesterday when I was driving home from the surgeon's office, the final appointment before I see him again for surgery. And I was thinking like, oh, I'm not going to be fat anymore. Not that I'm going to lose every inch of fat that's on me, but I think that society will not perceive me as being fat the way that they do now. If anything, they might see me as thick, but definitely not the way that I am now. So like I said, I realized what a security blanket my weight has been for me, and having this be part of my identity. My weight loss, weight gain, weight struggles, talking about my weight with my friends and family, talking with each other about diets and exercise and bonding about weight struggles. Being as fat as I am in 2022, it's kind of a double-edged sword because there's a lot of othering. There's a lot of feeling different and feeling bad for being fat and feeling outcast and getting looks and feeling like you're getting judged and all that stuff. And a few fat phobic comments in my fucking in my comments. I see you bitches. If you're gonna comment on my weight, at least make it a good roast. Like, I'm putting myself out there as a content creator, okay? Put yourself out there in the comments a little bit. Try something. Have a little fun with it. Don't just be like, you're fat. Yeah, no duh, I'm fucking fat. And it's not an insult. It's a statement of fact. Tell me something I don't know, buddy. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of fat phobia. There's a lot of issues with, like, earlier this year I was in a wedding. I flew to South Carolina. I ended up going with Spirit Airlines. There were a few different airlines that were in around the same price point as Spirit, but Spirit has the big seats up at the front. And the last time I flew on an airplane before this flight, I think I was in like a normal airplane seat, not like some special big seat or anything. And I felt tight. I felt squeezed. And, that was when I was a little bit thinner than I am now. So I was like, I don't want to deal with that shit. And so I got the big seat on the Spirit airline. I had to pay a little more for it. Thank God I didn't need a seatbelt extender, but I was like this close to needing one. It's that kind of shit. The world is not made to accommodate fat people. I believe that it should be. It's just not right now. And right now is when I'm young, so I can't afford to wait around for systemic societal changes that are probably not going to come until Gen Z gets to be my age. So it makes you feel different. It makes you feel big. It makes you feel bad for being big. It makes you feel othered. I don't want to say oppressed because I'm a straight white woman in America in 2022. I have a lot of privilege in that way, but my weight is one way that people other me. They're being fat phobic. At the end of the day, that is what it is. But I feel weird saying it, I guess, because I'm white. But there are a lot of inconveniences. There are a lot of experiences that I cannot participate in and enjoy because a lot of industries and environments are not built for people of size. And I'm not even getting to the fact that I'm tall. At the same time, 2022 is a great time to be a fat woman in America. I grew up with Ashley Graham as a role model. I grew up with plus size models being introduced and discussed on the Tyra Show. There's this growing movement for representation and inclusivity of all kinds, and especially a growing like sub-movement or subsection of that movement that has to do with fat acceptance, body positivity, body acceptance, all of these things that I wish I had grown up with that would have given me a little bit more self-esteem. So there is community to be found out there. It's mostly online. I think like it's easier to find those people online. You can be my size and gain a following and gain some social media exposure, and you can make your own success in a world that 10, 20 years ago would have been impossible. Even doing commentary, something that has nothing to do with my weight would have been really hard for me to grow an audience. All of that complexity, all of that struggle and the emotions connected with it, the psychology connected with it, it's all part of my story. And I think what's weird is that today is the last day that is all part of my present. Because starting tomorrow, it feels like at least it's going to be part of my past. Once I have this surgery, and I have a lot of weight loss to go through, it's going to be a process. It's not going to be immediate, but once I have this surgery, I'm going to reach and maintain a much lower weight. And people are not going to look at me and think, boy, I bet she has struggled with weight all her life. What I'm weirded out by is the inevitable, what feels like erasure of almost 30 years of deep, complex, traumatic history with weight. Eating.
That is something that I'm still a bit worried about. Even earlier in this stream when I was talking about like the policing of language and stuff, I think there are a lot of people who have met me on my channel this year who, especially in the fall of this year, I know it's only November 1st, but I went on my break in the summer because I was dealing with my insomnia, and I continued losing weight during that time, of course, and then I came back in August, September, and I know October I've been off, but I was posting more consistently in August and September, and there are people who met me then who never knew that version of myself. And on my Desiree Smith video that I posted where I showed that clip from my older video from right before my surgery, I think at least one person commented that like they didn't recognize myself because I introduced the video and I said like, this is me from a year ago or whatever. And 150 pounds later, it makes sense that if you met me now, you wouldn't think you wouldn't necessarily look at a person 150 pounds bigger than me and make the connection that they're the same person. But I do worry a bit still about, can I say anything about weight and about weight journeys and stuff, because I no longer look like somebody who has necessarily that history or that struggle. So my voice might be drowned. And so that's another reason why I'm making this content on my channel, so that people know that this is part of my story. If I never, if I continue losing weight and I never really gain weight and I never really appear physically large again, back the way that I was then I still want people to know that this is deeply ingrained in myself, in my history, in my experience as a human being. And I will talk about these issues, because even at the size that I am now, they still impact me, and because they impact other people. And I have an opinion and I have a voice to raise in this regard. It is still part of my identity. What I've gone through with my weight and with my body and with food and with relationships to food and with disordered tendencies around eating, and that's all not suddenly gone because the weight is gone. So I think the only way, I have to be the one to continue bringing that up and making that point for people to listen to my voice when I talk about those subjects. So it's on me, essentially. I guess that's the answer to that prior concern that I had. I can still talk about these things as long as I continue doing it and don't silence myself. Other people won't silence me if I don't silence myself, I think.
Body dysmorphia, all of this stuff, putting a definitive end date on that, it's just really weird for me. There will come a time when I will meet brand new people who will have no idea that I was anything other than an average weight, which is kind of what I'll end up being. So they might feel weird about me talking about weight issues. I might feel weird talking about them because I won't currently be in this body, but I'll remember being in this body. I guess it's like, as much as I want the problems of this body to go away, I'm not theoretically opposed to being big and having fat. It's that I don't want to have that limit my life and my lifestyle. In a way, it feels like giving in to what society wants, which is for fat people to get thin just because they don't like looking at fat bodies. But that's not why I'm doing it. In my heart, I know that. I'm doing it because my body hurts. But as a side effect, society will treat me better, and that fucking sucks. And I hate that. The last time I had drastic weight loss, I was crash dieting, but the thing I hated most was people who had not talked to me ever. This was during my college years when I was going to a church that I had grown up at. They had never talked to me, or had only said hi in passing at church. And the first conversation they were ever having with me as an adult college-aged human was to compliment me on my weight loss. And I was like, you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. You don't know the struggle that I've gone through. You don't know what it took for me to get to this point. You're celebrating the result, but not the process. And I made a whole video about that on my channel too. Massive weight loss is a very visible kind of public change. So I understand people observing the fact that I had lost weight, but I couldn't put this into the words at the time, but it was very hurtful for all these people who had been there while I was growing up as a child and a teenager at church, who had never spoken a word to me, for their first conversations to be about my body. And especially when it came from dudes at the church. First of all, it assumed that I wanted to lose weight as rapidly as I did, which sure I did, but they didn't know me. They didn't know what I wanted or what I was trying to do. For all they knew, I had worms or something, or I had a disease or a sickness or a reason that my body was shedding all this weight, and it was not intentional. They didn't know. They just said, oh, good job, you've lost weight. It also implies that I was bad for being fat before I had lost weight. It also has more meaning than just good job, you've lost weight, or you look good. It means I looked bad before, I was doing a bad job before. And really what they mean is, oh, thank God, I can look at you now and not think about your weight. And not think about you're fat. Thank you for conforming to society. Thank you for conforming to what I think is a good-looking person. Thank you for changing yourself into what I want you to be and what society has conditioned me to think that you should be. good job. I didn't have the words for it at the time, but it was strange. Like, don't comment on people's bodies. If they bring it up, that's one thing. But like for me, it's always a sign of my poor mental health when I'm gaining weight. I don't want to hear, oh, those pants are fitting you a little tighter. What I want to hear is, are you okay? How's your life? Are you stressed? Do you need help? Is there any way I can help you? And when I'm rapidly losing weight, when I go to my freshman year of college and in the second semester, I lose 50 pounds in one semester, it was a cry for help. And I never got that help because people were happy to see me being thin. Don't comment on people's bodies that you don't know. If they've gained weight, don't assume it's a bad thing. Because for me, after I lost weight from crash dieting, after college when I first was regaining weight, it was because I was in a much better place mentally and I was allowing myself to gain curves and enjoy those curves. Also, don't assume that if somebody's losing weight, that it's a good thing. There's different definitions of good and healthy. Some people stick to the physical. I look at things holistically. So sometimes the physical gets put on the back burner, but I would value my mental health over my physical health every goddamn day. Basically, don't assume things about people's bodies. Don't comment on them unless that person opens the door. And even then, maybe don't. Well, because why? Why do you need to? I know that next phase of my life is coming with people commenting on my body, on my weight loss, on my channels, and in person. And I'm dreading it with every fiber of my being. It represents so much more than people know. It's hard to describe, which is why this video is so fucking long.
So this section got a little disorganized, but I guess you could...
I will say, I have been pleasantly surprised by the people have just been very I don't know, they've just been very good. People have been very, very good about how they've talked to me about my weight loss. I think since making this point on my channel, but also just like, because I think the people who have said anything about my weight loss were tuned in to this part of my journey and watched this video back at the end of last year and, you know, found it important. As opposed to, you know, commenting on whatever was the subject of like a Logan Paul video or whatever it was that I had commented on. If they were also commenting on my body, they've done it in a very positive way. So I really appreciate people who are taking that approach in my audience. I thank you for listening to me in that regard. I'll also say that I still, and you can hear it thus far into this stream, you can hear it all over the last stream that I did with the 1 year anniversary of my weight loss, this back and forth between physical health and mental health, this push-pull, this which one do I prioritize, which one do I treasure more, you know, this feeling that I described last time and this time of treasuring my mental health so much that my physical health deteriorated so much. Like, that is an ongoing struggle I don't know how to balance yet. Those of you who do, put it in the comments, put it in the chat. Also, if you're here, like this video, subscribe to my channel, whatever. But like, advise me on how to balance this in a healthy way, because I still don't know. And I want to find out, because I want to know how to do better in that regard so that I don't find myself in the situation that I was in, feeling the need to take such a drastic step as the surgery or any other drastic change that I may make in the future, you know. I just, you know, I'm here sharing my experiences, and I would love to hear from other people about theirs when it comes to this. Everybody has experiences in this regard. Whether you have gone through massive weight changes like me or little ones or none at all, you know, let me know what works for you and what's effective. Because clearly I'm not, I still, a year later, I don't know how to balance this right out.
I could say that that's reflective of my experience as a fat woman, especially one who has gone through a few different weight loss cycles. Disorganized, messy, emotional, confusing, frustrating, all of that good stuff. But I got to all the points that were weighing heaviest on my mind that day, so that was the last recording I took until it was time to wind down for the day.
I'm back in my car because I just drove home. I got two of my favorite comfort foods to have for dinner. One is Big Y Pizza. I don't know where Big Y is, but I think it's like a small northeastern grocery chain. They make the best freaking pizza. It is a soft crust. It is not a thin crust, but for somebody like me who likes sugar and chewy bread, This is the shit, man. And I also got an M&M McFlurry. These are two things that I grew up on. And yes, I did have ice cream already today, but I didn't have soft ice cream. I didn't have M&Ms. I didn't have an M&M McFlurry. So these are the two things that are basically going to cap off my, I don't know, all day binge, I guess. Big Wide Pizza is something that was present at like every birthday party, church event, whatever we did growing up. Cheap, yummy. So it's definitely one of the more nostalgic comfort foods for me. M&M McFlurries are also nostalgic for me. I think they came out while I was young and they were my favorite thing to get from McDonald's ever since then. And I've always loved similar things like Blizzards from DQ or whatever else. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna have for dinner. And then tomorrow I start restricting on keto. Tomorrow I'm gonna get my head in the game. Tomorrow it's all gonna be about no pain, no gain. What's the other phrase? What is the phrase I'm thinking of? I don't know what phrase I'm thinking of, but something else similar to no pain, no gain. That all starts tomorrow. Tonight, I'm exhausted, and I would just like to eat in peace and hang out with my boyfriend and think about my next chapter of life, I guess, before I step into it. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for listening to me ramble forever. And I hope you found this interesting. Comment down below if you did. If you didn't, still comment down below because it helps my video. Thank you. So much love. Bye.
So that's the end of that. So I guess my final thoughts, sitting here 1 year later from my surgery, I wouldn't have changed anything. I would have, I'm so glad that I went through with it. And I think that one of the points that I made that I kind of glossed over and I didn't point it out when I made it was that feeling like I'm tired of fighting the battle. I think I said I'm tired of fighting the battle and I want to do this, something along the lines of wanting to do this because I can fight and fight and fight and never get as good of results as I would get from just having the surgery. And that's absolutely true. If I had not had the surgery, there's no way I would have lost about 150 pounds. And there is no way. And I'm not even talking about in this time frame because I've lost about 150 pounds in a year with my weight loss surgery. I mean, ever. I don't know if I ever would have lost that weight without the surgery. So I'm incredibly grateful that my doctor suggested this to me, and I'm so grateful to the team that I was working with. Everybody was very just kind and compassionate. Nobody was very judgy. I think that there's this fear with going to the doctor and having everything be about your weight or being treated differently because of your weight when you're larger, and I did not experience that at all with the bariatric team that I worked with. And I think that's the value of working with specifically a bariatric program, a bariatric team, as opposed to just a standard primary care or a standard nutritionist who maybe does not specialize in bariatric patients. It's a whole different set of challenges and a whole different world, I think, when you are looking at such a drastic change that's needed for the client or for the patient, I suppose I should be saying. The only way I would have been able to made such a huge change again was if I would have done a diet, which is not, meaning in the weight loss sense, in the I'm on a diet sense, in the ways that I had previously lost massive weight in an unhealthy way. And like I said, not knowing what to do once I got off of the diet, I didn't know what to do. And so intuitive eating wasn't working. Trying to figure it out on my own was not working. So I think that this was the best choice for me. It wasn't the easy way out. It's been a tough year. A lot of the tough parts don't have to do with the surgery, but certainly there are parts that do. Spending, months mostly eating protein drinks and oikos yogurts is not not exactly something that people look forward to. And you know, there's a lot of stuff, but I'm glad that I did this. I don't have any regrets. Honestly, I do have a little bit of loose skin, and I don't even have big scars from my surgery. Those are the two big things that people kind of think about when they think about weight loss surgery. And nothing huge in that regard. Certainly nothing preventative of me like I'm gonna wear a swimsuit again. I'm gonna be fine. And it's also not a contest, I guess, in terms of like, your life is not a contest with the people around you. Do what's right for you and don't listen to what other people say. Or if you and your sister or you and your very best friend or whatever both go through the same process and get the same weight loss surgery, and you're bound to have different results, and that's okay. Because you live different lives and you're unique individual people. Don't compare your progress to somebody else's, because it is very personal, and because of the psychological element of it too, which is certainly very different and personal for each person. Also, the weight loss arc. I lost a lot more weight during, like, proportionally or percentage wise during my first 6 months than I did during the last 6 months. And there are ups and downs. There are times where I plateau and then all of a sudden something changes. I don't know what changes, but all of a sudden I'm losing weight again. I have hit my goal. Like, I had a goal range where I wanted to be, like a weight range, and I'm there. So now moving forward, it's like, well, what do I want to do? I don't know. And that's fine. I think that what I want to do is explore more interesting and exciting recipes, and try to make eating nutritious but also fun, and work out more and get more muscle tone back, because that's something I've been slacking on throughout this entire process. I will readily admit I have not been the poster child for the amount of exercise I was supposed to be doing this whole time. I was not doing that. Maybe for the first month I was taking my daily 1 mile walks, but no, that's, my life doesn't have time for that. I was dealing with too much. I still am not doing mile long walks right now. I have my workout machine, and that's what I'm doing. But yeah, I wouldn't change anything about this. I've learned so much about health through this process. I've learned a lot about nutrition that I would not have learned otherwise. And I am happy. If you have any more specific questions, please let me know in the comments below if you're watching this later or now in the live. I'm going to check in with the chat, and then I have to go because I'm coming up on my hard stop. I have a range of my hard stop, so I'm past part of my, I gotta go. So let me just look at the chat. If you have any questions, now's a good time. Or of course you can leave them in the comments afterward. Oh, did you all just hear Jupiter yell? Jasmine, thank you for being here and sharing. Okay, so this is about mental health and physical health. They aren't separated. Your body will be affected by your mental health, and the converse is also true. You can't prioritize one over the other. I find that therapy helps, and so do support groups. Yes, I need to, I think I was always very embarrassed during the support groups, which is part of the process with the surgery. My team that I worked with, we had support groups and everything. I was always embarrassed about, I didn't know what to share or how much to share, and it was all on Zoom, so it wasn't like we were really making friends in the same way that maybe now in 2023 with a little less COVID on the brain, it might be a little bit easier to connect with people about stuff, maybe in person. But you're right, yeah, it's not separated, and I need to make that more true for myself, that I'm not seeing them as two separate healths, but that they're together in the same basket, because it's very true, especially stress. Stress is very visible all over the physical body. Okay, so you have a group. Very, very, very good. Yeah, I think everybody was mostly listening a lot during this chat, but I appreciate you guys so much who are able to be here while I'm streaming this. I appreciate you who can be here on the replay. And there's not really a lot of questions or anything right now. I think I've talked enough, so it makes sense. But if you do have anything, of course, leave it in the comments on the replay. Also, I hope you like this video. Subscribe to my channel. I want to keep this conversation going. I also want to keep other kind of topics like this present on my channel. So if you have anything that you want to hear my opinion about that's not just an influencer, you can also let me know that in the comments below, because like I said, I want to leave avenues open for me to talk about other things. After this stream, the next thing I stream about will be finally about a certain influencer. The time has arrived. So look forward to that. Hopefully today's Wednesday, so hopefully within the next week I'll do my first live stream about that person. In the meantime, I need to regulate my sleep a little bit. October was all over the place because I had some big life things happening, and so my sleep got all over the place. And with my insomnia, I will not sacrifice my sleep for I won't do it anymore. So I needed to cut down on my YouTube in order to cut down on certain stress and take care of some other things. But hopefully with November, I'm a little bit more back to it. And those of you who have been waiting for a certain series, it's coming at you this November. So thank you all so much. I gotta run. I hope you have an awesome day. Questions, comments, concerns in the comments below. And yeah, have a great day. Peace be with you always. Bye.